And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer.
Amen.
Somehow, interestingly, we have this parable of Lazarus and the rich man appointed this Sunday, where we have vestry. Vestry Sunday. That's when lay officers are elected and appointed, and when we review last year's budget and set the budget for the coming year. Vestry concerns itself with, among other things, numbers. The numbers recorded for the past year and the numbers projected for the coming. Some of what we spend goes to pay staff salaries. Thank you. Some goes to the work of the wider church through our allotment system. And some goes out in ministry to feed and clothe and to provide emergency assistance to hurting people. These are anxious times for many, and some of you, understandably, are worried about your jobs, and where you're going to live, and how you're going to provide for your family, in the light of all that seems to be pressing in. In the church, we too can easily become gripped by anxiety about money. We live in a time when many churches, even strong cardinal parishes, are hedging bets as they draft their budgets, asking those who run programs to run them more leanly, letting budget anxiety nudge them into making decisions, and to lead them to more keeping rather than giving. The truth is that even when we live in abundance, we can convince ourselves we are in scarcity. This morning, Jesus seems to hit us right where we live with this parable. Now, as best as I can tell, the immediate context begins on the way to dinner. That's kind of way back in chapter 14. And what we read this morning is in chapter 16. So this has been developing for a while, as we've heard on Sunday morning. The conversation begins with the Pharisees. Even tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. And in chapter 15, we hear the parables that build upon each other: the lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost brother. And our gospel this morning begins with, there was a rich man. Now, this theme doesn't appear out of the blue. The warning that one's wealth must be handled wisely, we should manage our stuff rather than it manage us, is a recurring theme within the Bible. Not only as we heard in our epistle lesson, but as we hear again and again in the teaching of Jesus, we should manage our things and not let them manage us. And the gospel calls us to the exercise of love. The culture in which we live, of course, teaches us that we will become more human if we develop our own selfishness. The gospel, however, says we become more human when we learn to love. Now, in the last number of weeks, Jesus at dinner denounced the greed of the Pharisees, the rich fool who forfeited his soul, and he praised a prudent steward, gave warnings throughout chapter 12 regarding how to prepare for his final coming. And no one can be Jesus' disciple without being prepared to give up one's possessions. We heard that 2 weeks ago. And last week, we heard these golden words: you cannot serve God and money. It just doesn't work. Now, typical middle, ordinary Canadians can be identified from, again, a world standard as the rich man of Lazarus in this parable. We average Canadians are among the most well-educated and the most well-off average people in the world. Most of us at Christ Church have enough to eat. Some of us have a little bit too much. And sometimes we attempt to sit in our homes and feast sumptuously, while we know that there are people on the streets tending to their sores. And I'm so grateful that this congregation, this parish community, is strong and has always been strong in serving this community, in outreach through Regeneration Community Outreach, St. Louise Loop Outreach, and even in our work now to ally and to support refugees through International Christian Voice, as well as the many ventures that many of our parishioners are involved in. We have people involved in World Vision. We have people involved in JFJ Hope Center in Mississauga. In fact, Andrew Light is the executive director of that ministry. And there's nothing in this parable this morning, which we read, that says the rich man, was separated from God because he was rich. Jesus never made such an indictment about possessions. They were always neutral in his teaching. Rather, in the story of the rich young ruler who was told by Jesus to go and sell what he had and give his money to the poor, Jesus at that point was not prescribing, a universal diagnosis, but rather a specific individual instruction. Martin Luther King Jr., when commenting on this text, said that the rich man went to hell not because he was rich, but because he passed by Lazarus every day and never really saw him, and allowed Lazarus to become invisible. He failed to use that which he had at his disposal to bridge the gulf that separated him from his brother, Lazarus. In fact, he didn't even realize that Lazarus was his brother. If King is right, this parable may not be ultimately about our relationship to our step, but even more deeply about how God has placed people into our care. Also about a vision about what we see and what we don't see. Every day, most of us encounter people in various forms of need, in various ways, and far deeper needs as well that we can't see. And most of the time, I don't think we ignore people's needs on purpose. We don't always see them, and perhaps we're conditioned in that way. But the results are the same. The needs aren't met. People remain homeless and hungry. People remain trapped in fear, loneliness, and without hope. People remain unknowing about the love of Jesus. It seems to me that one of the reasons that poverty is so different so difficult to confront is because it forces us to be aware of people that aren't that different from us. To hear their stories, to walk with them in their struggles, and to understand them from the inside out. Now, to what then can we be blind? Well, make your own list. We all have our own distractions. We live in a frantic part of the world, here in the Greater Toronto Area, with people literally running at full throttle in order to stand still. So many people heading in so many directions, with everyone so exhausted and worn out. Over at Regeneration Community Outreach, they run a number of high school retreats in which grade 10 students are brought in for a day to reflect on the gospel call to serve the poor. To accomplish this end, they get some teaching, spend some time in prayer, make and serve a meal for the guests, and most importantly, listen and reflect on what they've learned. They usually have, a homeless or formerly homeless person tell their story to the kids. One of the kids one day asked one of the homeless persons to say, "What should we do when somebody approaches us for money?" The guest said to the student that he should do what he felt like doing and what he could do. "If you give them money," said the man, "be fully aware that it may be used for food, or it could be used for something else." He said to the fellow, to the guy, "Follow your gut as you make your decision, and it will be okay." Then he added the critical point. Say yes or say no, but treat me like a person. We spend our whole day not being seen. Don't act like we're not there. It's a challenge for us, isn't it? A challenge for us as a church to be as concerned as Jesus is about the least of these, our brothers and sisters. We should be concerned about people on our streets. And we should be concerned about the people that we have, that God has placed in our circle of influence. Our family, friends, and neighbors. Our co-workers. Our fellow members of the church. And especially those who are seeking and open to the gospel of Jesus. Why not invite them here to journey with us? In the final analysis, we're all in this together. Somehow we're knit together. King writes in his commentary on this text, "For some reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the way that God made the world. We must all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will all perish as fools." So in the end, our ministry in the transforming love of the gospel of Jesus is about living together, working together here in this community of Brampton. We preach the gospel of Jesus and of him crucified. We teach the young and old about the good news of Jesus, about the forgiveness of sins, lives reclaimed, futures restored, and relationships healed. We take our place in building this city as we have done since the very early colonial days of this little village. Journeying with the young and old, the sick and the friendless and the needy, in season and out, in good times and in bad. It's difficult work at times. It's demanding work. Our mission stretches us beyond our comfort zones and even our present capacity. It calls forth our best efforts and gives us results that both satisfy and delight, as well as results that remind us of our dependency upon God alone. And yes, our effectiveness in ministry involves our consistent and sacrificial giving. It involves living out the lordship of Jesus Christ in every dimension of our own lives. As God's love impacts upon ourselves, our souls and bodies, our relationships, and our resources. When you follow Jesus, he will take you places you can never fully return from. You cross over a gulf, a chasm, and see the world from a different point of view. Your vision, what you see and what you comprehend, will be altered. And you will see people differently. You will see them as the children of God. Now, at the beginning of this parable, we might assume that we're expected to identify with the rich man or with Lazarus. But maybe the parable is far more subtle than that at times. By the end, we realize we stand in the place of the brother in question as to whether or not we hear the scriptures and repent. These are challenging days for many. Lazarus is in front of us every day at the gates of this city, Brampton. We've got lots to do. We've done lots. We can celebrate what God has done with us this past year and what God calls us to do this coming year. Because God is on the throne and he's always been faithful to us. And you know what? He's not going to change that. That's for sure. Let's pray. Jesus, give us vision, clear our eyes, challenge us with your transforming love, that we seek to use our things to love you and to love our neighbor as ourselves. This we ask in your holy name.